Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Olympus educator, wedding and portrait photographer Joe Ellis, and today is new camera announcement day at Olympus. Let's get into it. Okay, so if you haven't already seen the abundant leaks on this camera body and read all the specs already, Olympus is announcing the EM5 Mark III, which is the successor to the amazing EM5 Mark II, which on a side note for me was the camera body in the modern age of Olympus cameras here in the Micro Four Thirds age that really brought me back into the fold and really convinced me that Olympus cameras were ready for absolutely anything. The EM5 Mark II was a camera that I brought along to weddings as my third camera body. It's just slung around my neck because it's so small and light. And I started taking pictures with it and just really enjoying all of the features and the speed and the image quality. And when the EM1 Mark II dropped with dual card slots and even more professional features, I knew that I had what I wanted. So it's a little bit sad to know that it's being replaced today by the EM5 Mark III, but boy, is the new camera body going to be something special. So to me, you can go read specs and all that online in a million different places if you haven't already. There's been plenty of leaks on this camera. But just take a quick look at what it is and what the key feature differences are here if you're looking to get into the system. So the first thing is that the EM5 Mark III, in my mind, could really be considered a baby EM1 Mark II. It has most of what makes the EM1 Mark II a special and amazing camera, and it's packed it down into an even smaller size. They did have to eliminate a couple of things in order to make those trade-offs, but for people who are looking for the ultimate portability, looking for sort of the best Goldilocks size of camera for what they do, and really want to shave every pound and ounce and an inch off of this camera so that they can pack it up and take it places, the EM5 Mark III is going to be an outstanding performer. So what are the compromises? Now, if you're moving up from an EM5 Mark II, then you're going to find a plethora of things that have been upgraded. But principally for me, if I was looking at an EM5 Mark II versus an EM5 Mark III, it would have to be the autofocus system is the principal thing. You are getting the new 20 megapixel sensor that's in both of these cameras, and you're going to have that now in your EM5 Mark III. And that is great and all, but it's not, I don't think, an earth-shattering difference between the two. I do think it performs better in low light. I do think the extra resolution is great, but it's not the end of the world. What is the end of the world is having phase detect autofocus coming out of this tiny camera body. That opens up a world of possibilities in terms of being able to track moving subjects and being able to use the video autofocus. And everything that's in the version 2 firmware in terms of focus and speed and accuracy and all that kind of stuff is also here in the EM5 Mark III. But let's get into a few of the trade-offs. So these two camera bodies are priced not too far apart. You're talking about $14.99 right now or so on B&H and about $11.99 at launch for this EM5 Mark III. And this isn't an EM5 Mark III, guys. This is an EM5 Mark II. There's only a few of them in the country right now, and I didn't get one yet. But when it does arrive here, I will be putting it through its paces. So if you guys have questions or things you want me to test or look at, please hit me up in the comments. Okay, so the compromises. The first one's really easy. This camera has a much larger battery. The battery system in the EM1 Mark II and the EM1X lasts for just hundreds and hundreds of frames. I put 2 batteries in my EM1Xs now at weddings, and I probably get, conservatively like 1,500 shots out of the 2 batteries, maybe more. And so the EM1 Mark II also gets a ton on its single battery. The battery that's in the EM5 Mark III is actually being adopted from the EM10 Mark III, not the EM5 Mark II. So it's a little bit smaller battery. I think they said it's rated for 300 some odd shots. I think you're going to get a great deal more than that because those are like the steepest standards and they're usually really low. But you will not be able to carry over your battery from your EM5 Mark II to your EM5 Mark III. So a little bit smaller battery, and they do that just for the form factor. You're really trying to get this camera body down to the smallest possible size, so they're using the smallest possible battery. The next thing that's different about the two of them is that the EM1 Mark II has a much bigger grip. And I would say overall, I still think that I'm probably going to prefer the ergonomics of the EM1 Mark II over the EM5 Mark III, just because they have more space to kind of put the buttons and make the buttons bigger and that kind of thing. Again, that's a sacrifice they're making for ultimate portability. So again, I think that's the key thing here that we're getting out of the EM5 Mark III, is that it's a baby EM1 Mark II, but the sacrifices they've made are to make the camera as small as possible. Now the next thing I would say is that both camera bodies, both these two camera bodies, the EM5 Mark II and the EM1 Mark II, are like an all-metal, all-weather construction. The EM5 Mark III is still going to be weather sealed, but they've told me there's a few more plastic pieces on the camera body, again, to shave down weight. Now, I want to remind everybody that football helmets are made out of plastic. So this is still going to be a super durable camera. It's still going to be weather sealed in all the same ways. It's simply going to have less weight on it. But if you're looking for all metal construction, then you're probably going to be looking at an EM1 Mark II. Okay, so the next thing is dual card slots. So the EM1 Mark II has dual cards, and again, you can write RAWs to both, RAWs to one, JPEGs to the other, stills to one, video to the other, so on and so forth. So if you like that backup, you like that redundancy, or if you want to set it up for your workflow, you have two card slots to play with. On the EM1 Mark II, one of them is the UHS-2 fast standard, one of them is the UHS-1, a little bit older standard. The EM5 Mark III has a single UHS-2 card slot, so it is going to be able to give you that ultimate performance in terms of reading things out of the buffer if you are shooting continuously. But it does not have the dual card slots. Okay, let me see what's else on my list here. The option of a grip. Okay, so the EM5 Mark II had this really interesting grip that it was kind of a two-piece job where you had both a sort of handle that you could put on, and then you had another piece that fit under the handle that could add an extra battery. And it was a weird system for me because the battery grip did not fit two batteries, it only fit one. You had to leave one in the camera body if you wanted to have dual batteries. And you know, I think that they have eliminated that as a possibility only because, again, looking at who this camera is for, who the target customer is, they're looking for the smallest, lightest, most capable camera, probably not the person that's going to be adding a grip. If you want a grip, you want a vertical grip, you want to have dual batteries, you're going to look at the EM1 Mark II. Okay, so we went over that, and went over that. Let's see what else I got here. Okay, and then the last one to me that is, you know, kind of a big deal is that the EM5 Mark III is not going to have a headphone jack. So it's important to note, if that is a big part of your workflow, if you're shooting video and you like to have your cans on, like to have monitor the audio while you're recording, you're not going to be able to do that with the EM5 Mark III. You're going to do that with the EM1 Mark II or the EM1X. Now, if you're working on a you know, a professional gig, or like I do for weddings or things like that, you know, probably 9 times out of 10 I've got some sort of external audio going on, so it's not a big deal for me not to be able to hear it through the camera body. But on the flip side, you still have the you know, audio bars that you can you know, watch your levels on, so you still can monitor audio. You're just not going to be able to listen to it. If you do need that functionality, both the EM1 Mark II and the EM1X have headphone jacks as well as mic jacks. The EM5 Mark III just has the microphone jack. So there's going to be a few other nuanced things that are different between the two of them. And I'm sure that'll come out in the specs in the many other videos that you'll probably see today in the days coming. But that, in a nutshell, was it for me. You know, really I think about the EM5 Mark III being a baby EM1 Mark II. And I think that phase detect autofocus, the UHS-2 card slot, you know, I think it has some improved image stabilization. All of those things are just pointing to a camera that really is the quintessential Olympus camera body, in the sense that it's the smallest, lightest, most capable camera that you can get on the market in the coming weeks. So I think it's going to be a hot seller for Olympus. I certainly hope it is. I think that a lot of people are going to get a lot of joy out of it. I think that in terms of a target audience, if I'm just looking at what this is all about, I would say that the travel, adventure, landscape segment might love this camera if they really want to keep their size and weight down. The other segment is more near and dear to my heart, and that is sort of the documentary parent or you know, street photographer. And for those people, this camera represents like a camera you can actually put a small prime lens on, and it fits right into a jacket pocket, fits right into a purse. It's also a camera that you can take to a soccer game or a dance recital, and now you can have it track like none other and really get multiple, high percentage frames in focus if you're shooting moving action, sports, things like that. It's not the professional sports camera. It doesn't have, the same, terms of dual card slots and all that kind of good stuff that you find on the professional models. But if you are, shooting, Little League soccer, or you're shooting indoor basketball this winter, or you're shooting a dance recital, it's going to be more than adequate to give you, in the high 90% plus in focus range. And I think that that is remarkable in this size camera. And I can also say that, I like having a third angle or a third camera on me. And I've been bouncing between, the Pen F and having this EM1 Mark II on me. But now you've got another option that has that great autofocus at that even lighter, weight. And I think that anytime you can have a camera body on you that's so small that you barely know that you're carrying it, that's a huge win. And I think that's where the EM5 Mark III really fits. I also think it's remarkable now that we have 3 professional models from Olympus that all have exactly the same image quality, all using basically the same sensor, which means you're really just picking your camera body based on its features. And I think that is a beautiful place to be, because it just eliminates all of that indecision and compromise that you have as you're kind of looking at different cameras. Like, can I live with this many megapixels or this many megapixels, or yada, yada, yada. Now you're just saying, okay, what is the camera that best suits me in terms of, size, weight, cost, and features. And now even the autofocus, for the most part, is equalized among the 3 cameras. I do think the EM1X is still the king of low light. It's the one that can focus the fastest in the dark. But outside of really extreme circumstances, each of these is going to perform really, really well in almost any task. So that's the EM5 Mark III, guys. I'm going to have one here shortly, so let me know what you guys want me to test or look at, and hit me up with things in the comments if you have things you want to discuss, or you want me to look up some certain specs that you're interested in. So I'll see you there, guys. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.